The Return, Chapter 18. Finally. When Tor grew tired of beating him so easily at chess, he said, "Cards?" Saam gave a shrug. "I think I can remember how to play," he said, innocently. Tor mused. "We're supposed to play for money." Saam shrugged offhand. "Perhaps you could lend me some." After Saam beat him hollow in 5 consecutive hands, and he had entirely run out of money, Tor realized finally that Saam's innocent face could not always be trusted. He fetched drinks for them both, alcohol for him, something significantly less potent for Saam. He chewed his lip for a moment. He clearly wanted to say something, but was somehow reluctant to raise the issue. At last, Tor, his eyes fixed on his drink, said quietly, "Did you enjoy Sarah?" His tone was casual. His body language was not. Saam looked bewildered. "Sarah?" "The Xonak girl." He sounded almost offended. Saam was confused. "Oh, I thought I had dreamed her." Tor huffed a laugh. "Well, she's really enough." A slight pause. "She's mine. Well, assigned to me to take care of me. My responsibility, I suppose I should say." He was struggling to find an acceptable way to put it. Saam began to feel cold and finally spoke over Tor's defensive babbling. "Was I drugged?" Tor grinned. "Just a relaxant. I use it myself. Nothing to worry about." "How?" Tor smiled. "The pudding. The strawberry pudding." A feeling of cold shame washed over Saam. What had he done? Gods, what had he done? "Tor," he asked, afraid of the answer, "is she a slave?" "Well, that's not a simple question. That's illegal, as you know." "Please just tell me." He was cold, almost numb with it, thinking, "I want to know if I should kill myself." No, they're not. None of them are slaves. They came here as slaves, of course, from the Samsa. There was a lot of discussion about setting them free. I wasn't here, but I heard about it. You can learn a lot in the kitchen. He fell silent when he saw Saam's expression. The consul had been badly hurt, and Lord Keriss stepped up, though he was rather young. He had no problem with freeing them. It was the law. But there were reports that this was not a safe place for, say, Keriss. Not a friendly planet. You talked about that in that speech you made. Very good, by the way, and I loved the clothes. He saw Saam's quick flash of irritation. "Get on with it," his face said. "Anyway, we all know someone who has died that way." So they were given the choice. They could leave if they wanted to. No one would stop them. If they stayed, they would be sheltered, fed, protected, and they would be treated as servants, not slaves. He paused as Saam regarded him silently. Was that even possible? Tor went on. "Many decided to stay, mostly. A few left immediately. Some were never heard of again. Some left and then asked to come back. They all know how hard life is out there, and they can risk it at any time they choose. There are no chains on them." Saam looked at him, his face expressionless. Tor knew he had been a fighter, by all reports a dangerous one, but he had thought of Saam as a friend for some time now, with good reason. He had worked for weeks to help the man recover. Without that help, he would have quickly died. But this was not the face of a friend. It was the face of someone who might hurt him. Saam said quietly, "Sarah is your—" Tor flushed. "Personal servant." Saam nodded. "How is that different from a bed slave?" "Well, she can say no at any time. Right at the start, if she doesn't like the look of me, she can say no. She can refuse to serve me, refuse to be with me on any given day. She lives with me, but she can say no as and when the mood takes her." He laughed. "And she does exactly that." He smiled at his own foolish weakness. "Quite something, no? Remember, a year ago I was still on Hannath." He stopped, acutely aware of Saam's unsmiling face, and that he was rambling. "And she can change her mind at any time. And I can't just lend her out like a book. I can ask her to do me a favour, but she has the right to say no." Saam frowned and asked, So last night she was willing?" Saam's facial expression was really beginning to alarm Tor. "You asked her for a favour." It seemed so unlikely. Tor actually flushed, went pink in the face. "No, not me. I didn't ask her. I wouldn't. The consul did that." He groaned. A little pitifully he said, "Please don't make me discuss it. My feelings are hurt quite enough already." "Willing? I lay awake half the night wondering if she'd ever come back." Saam looked at him. "I can't tell if you're serious." "Serious as a broken heart." His choice of words, blurted out like that, so unguarded, shamed him. He dropped his gaze, a little embarrassed. "One of the servants, perhaps 10 days ago, one of them bought a copy of that film, The Vengeance. Right now, somewhere in the complex, it's playing. Someone is always watching it. It plays constantly. They didn't know who you were before that. You must have noticed they look at you differently now. I know Tsara has watched it," he said, almost grumpily. Saam looked at his unhappy face. While making The Vengeance, the human women he worked with had fallen into 2 groups. Those who would not touch him were repelled by his otherness, and those who were keenly attracted by it. Once the movie was released, smiling women would offer themselves to the Keriss hero, Saameron of The Vengeance. Apparently this nonsense worked on non-humans too. Bought with money. "Oh yes, they're paid. Not a lot, but enough to have some of their own possessions. It's quite an education to see what they choose to spend it on." Saam thought for a moment. She was willing, enthusiastic even. Of course, he should have known that Keriss would not involve him in something that would shame him so bitterly. He looked up, starting to relax a little. She had been willing. Eager, if Tor was to be believed. And Saam knew he was. Not just because Hannath nobles are known for the way they utterly disdain lying and liars, but because he knew that Tor was his friend. He sighed. "And the kitchen staff? Do they have a choice?" Tor was relieved to see the Saam he knew returning and said, "They're paid to cook. Some of them clean. They choose their own partners." He looked into Saam's eyes. "Bearing in mind that this is not a friendly planet, they are as free as Keriss can make them." Tor watched and waited. He was accustomed to Saam smiling. Even in sleepy repose, his face wore a small smile. Take away the smile, and he was no longer Saameron. Saam blinked and nodded. "And the Xonak girl with the beautiful eyes, I think she was watching." He paused. "I have a friend with eyes like that. Shah. She reminds me of Shah." Thinking quietly, just as crazy as he was when I first met him. Tor coughed. "Well, I wasn't here, you understand, so this is kitchen talk. She was one of the ones who left at once. She belonged to Keriss. I believe he was a bit taken aback at that. He was fond of her, and it took him by surprise. The kitchen girls definitely saw it as an ungrateful and unwise move. She was back a month later, damaged and begging to be allowed to come back. Of course he permitted it, but as you probably know, we Hannath—" "You don't like to share your toys," said Saam. Tor looked uncomfortable at the characterization, but nodded. What would that have been like for her? Took her freedom with both hands, then had to come crawling back to a man who had once cared for her, but no longer wanted her. He started to think that he understood the rage in her eyes. They were talking the next day some trivial nonsense about Saam's hearing, which was slowly recovering from the beatings his ears had taken. Among his other strangeness, Saam's ears were a little bigger than was normal for a Keripp. Not freakishly so, but enough to attract comment. The kitchen staff teased him about it. Someone had once told him that the Keripp were descended from a prey animal, so their defences were keener than those of the descendants of a predator. He didn't know if that was true. Sometimes he suspected that his hearing was even a little sharper than the average Keripp, and he talked about how often he overheard things he would rather not know. Humans were unguarded around him. Saam made some comment about his big ears getting him into trouble. He tried later to remember how he had expressed it, how he could have been misinterpreted, but couldn't recall the exact words. He blocked the slap without thinking, almost without seeing it coming. Back on the Vengeance, before his swollen, tender face had been fixed, he had learned very quickly to defend his face at all costs. The little girl with the beautiful eyes was standing over him, clenching and unclenching her fists, beside herself with rage. Tor rose, towered over her. "Are you mad? You know how much work has been done on his face. Are you completely insane?" Tor was incensed. Nazaar glared down at a bewildered Saameron. "I am half Nadiv. My ears are perfectly normal for a Nadiv." Saam looked at her confused, then said, "I'm sorry, I wasn't talking about you. I was talking about my own—" He gestured to his own generous ears. She made a rude, dismissive noise and stormed away. Tor and Saam watched her go. "She's unhinged," offered Tor. "She's heartbroken," thought Saam. When Saameron finally succumbed, it was with little fanfare and no fuss. Keriss watched him swim one evening, watched as Tor stopped him to talk about a defect in his stroke. He was much stronger now, pulled himself easily onto the side of the pool. Quite beautiful. He would soon be fully healed, and there would no longer be any excuse to keep him here. Tor was explaining that his knee had been shattered and had been worked on while he slept, but he needed to be aware that it was still healing, and so on. When they were done, Saam walked over to him and looked him in the face. Keriss smiled. They walked past someone as they entered his rooms, but Saam didn't see. He heard Keriss say, "I won't need you tonight," dismissing them. Then they were together on the bed, shedding clothes. Saam's loose coverings were gone in a moment, but the more formally dressed Keriss took a little longer. Saam helped him with the boots, the buckles. It wasn't difficult. Keriss touched him, stroked him, fondled him, kissed him, made him burn. Saam's heart beat hard and wild when Keriss turned him to face away from him, but he did as he was bid, crossed his ankles as he was told, tightened the muscles in his thighs, and then Keriss was close behind him, tight up against him, pleasuring himself without hurting him, turning Saam's face so he could kiss him. Saam almost laughed. He was looking over his shoulder, just like the painting. Autumn would love this, he thought. He would say, "I'm gagging for it." When Keriss lowered his hand to touch him, he almost exploded. He tried to control himself, but it was hopeless. With a relief that made him almost faint with pleasure, his teeth clenched, he whispered, "Keriss," groaned, and came. In the few sweet moments he had before he slept, he thought, "I'm sorry, Autumn, I always—" But he was asleep before he could complete the thought.